is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some big trades that went down yesterday. Some monster trades that went down yesterday and how that could affect the Detroit Lions pick at number 7. So let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, there were some gigantic trades that were happening yesterday. I didn't even think they were legit when I was first seeing them. I was like, oh, there's some mock stuff, some mock drafts going on Twitter, I guess. No, this stuff was actually happening. Oh, snap, it's going down. And it really did go down yesterday. So there were some big blockbuster deals that happened yesterday. And if you didn't hear about them, you're about to hear about them. Let's go through those first, and then we'll update the draft order, and then we'll talk about how this could affect the Detroit Lions at number 7. San Francisco 49ers, who were sitting at number 12 this year, they were sitting at number 12 in the draft, jumped all the way up to number 3. And traded with the Miami Dolphins. Now, you're probably thinking, how does Miami have the 3rd pick in the draft, right? They were good last season. Well, they were pretty good. Well, Miami got that from Houston. So they had that pick from the Houston Texans for Laramie Tunsil. And then the Miami Dolphins went from number 3 and moved back with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers gave up a lot. They gave up their 12th pick this year, their 1st round pick the next year, the 1st round pick the year after that, and a 3rd round pick. They gave up a ton to move up to number 3 in the draft. So Miami is just sitting there saying, okay, we got all this for Laramie Tunsil, and now we're getting this from San Francisco, who basically gave us this pick at number 3. Like, this is wild. Yeah, Miami got a lot. So Miami goes back to 12. San Francisco vaults up to number 3. They go up 9 spots. They gave up a ton, which we'll get to what that probably means in a second. But then you have Miami who's sitting there at 12 and like, you know what? Now this ain't good enough. Yeah, number 12 just ain't good enough. And for some reason, whatever it may be, we'll talk about it, what it could mean. They said, you know what, we got to get back into this. And they jumped 1 spot in front of our Detroit Lions, and they moved up with the Philadelphia Eagles. We weren't sure what they were going to do in the draft. They move up with Philly, and now they have the 6th pick in the draft. So now your draft order looks like this. Number 1 remains the Jacksonville Jaguars. 2 is the Jets. 3 is now San Francisco. 4 is the Atlanta Falcons. 5 is the Cincinnati Bengals. 6 is now the Miami Dolphins. 7 is our Detroit Lions. 8 is Carolina. 9 Denver. 10 Dallas. 11 Giants. And 12 Philadelphia. So those are the top 12 picks in this year's draft. So after all that happened yesterday, what does that mean for the Detroit Lions? Well, I don't think it's a huge, gigantic deal that's going to completely alter what the Lions' path was going to be, just based on how I already felt like they were going to approach this draft. But I think it could affect a few things. I think it definitely could. So let's talk about the teams that traded up first, or that traded and moved around first. Let's talk about San Francisco. For San Francisco, they go up 9 spots. I think when you give up that many picks, it's pretty clear you're trading up because you really like somebody or multiple guys that you just don't think you can miss out on. And when you give up that many picks, to me, it just screams quarterback. I mean, yes, you could potentially go a different route. You could, draft the top receiver, which is somewhat of a need for them. You could go with the top cornerback, but why in the world would you trade to number 3 to do that, right? That doesn't make any sense. You're taking a quarterback, right? I mean, now the San Francisco 49ers like, we're not trading Jimmy Garoppolo right now. I'm just saying, now I don't know if they're going to trade away Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, Jimmy could be the quarterback this season and they could draft a quarterback and have him sit behind. A lot of teams have been doing that. It could make a lot of sense. But I think it's pretty clear that San Francisco is taking a quarterback. Come on, man. Do we really think San Francisco is going any different route after giving up 3 first-round picks and a 3rd? They're taking a quarterback, right? So San Francisco now is at number 3, and they're taking a quarterback. Well, now we have at number 6, Miami. Now, they went back 3 spots. Now, let's first talk about Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is interesting. Philadelphia is very interesting, because when they were sitting at 6th, reports are that they were actually interested in moving up with Miami. Yeah, I know. They were thinking about, hey, we should move up with the Miami Dolphins. But the report behind it is that they would have only been willing to move up with the Miami Dolphins if they knew for sure that Zach Wilson was going to be there, the quarterback out of BYU, who just had his pro day. If they knew for sure he was going to be there at 3, apparently they would have done it. But they didn't know for sure, so instead they decided, let's just trade back, okay? Because they were kind of in a weird spot at number 6, where they didn't really need to be this high, but at the same time, they weren't high enough to get maybe the quarterback that they loved. And they weren't really 100% sure he was going to be there. Why? Because, well, the New York Jets sit at number 2. He likes Sam Darnold, things like that. But they have a general manager that didn't draft Sam Darnold, and they have a new head coach in Robert Saleh. And it's sitting at number 2. it's not crazy to think that they could draft a quarterback as well. And apparently Philadelphia thinks that they definitely could, so they decided it's not even worth going up to number 3 because it's not 100% sure, 100% certain we're going to have Zach Wilson there. So they decided let's move back, which could be a pretty big tell, by the way, for how this draft could go. We'll see. And then you have a team like Miami. Now, Miami's interesting because they jumped back from 3 to 12. And when they did that, it's like, okay, they're probably not taking a quarterback. There was thoughts, oh, did they believe in Tua? Yeah, they're not taking a quarterback if they're going from 3 to 12 because, why would you do that? Unless they love Mac Jones, they feel like he can fall. But then all of a sudden they say, hey, look, we got to trade back into this. We got to get back to number 6 and get in front of Lions and get in front of Carolina. We got to get back into this. And to get back at the number 6 position, they traded up with Philadelphia, gave them a first-round pick next year, and swapped mid-round picks this year, 123 and 156. So they moved back up in this year's draft. To me, Miami's the interesting one because I don't think they're going to take a quarterback, but clearly they were moving up for something. And when you look at Miami's draft needs, offensive tackle is a high need, edge, linebacker, safety, running back, but a lot of people believe it could be receiver at number 6. They are a very interesting team because they have Tua as their quarterback. We believe he's going to be there. Do they go with offensive tackle? Is the reason that they traded back up because they said, hey, we don't want to lose out on Slater and Penei Sewell. We want to make sure that we land one of these top wide receivers because if you think about it, if you're at number 12 and the Giants are sitting there at number 11, there's a good chance that the Giants could also take a receiver and the Lions could take a receiver. I mean, there's teams in there that could take receivers and it could make it so a guy like Devontae Smith isn't available or someone like that they really want. So there's clearly a reason they jumped back into. There's something that they wanted there. Or is it a Micah Parsons? Is it a linebacker like that? Because they've lost Gruger Hill. They've lost Kyle Van Noy, who I think they cut. They might want linebacker as well. I'm not sure what they're going to do. They seem like they have a lot of options on the table for them of what they can do because they got a lot of draft picks in this year's draft, a lot of higher picks in this draft. So it's not like they're like pigeonholed into here. Here's what you have to do. So they have a lot of options. We're not really sure what's going on there. But let's go through what this could mean for the Detroit Lions. Well, here's kind of my 2 thoughts. My first thought is that could mean a little bit less likely that the Lions find a trade back partner. That's my first initial thought. It's a little bit less likely. Why? Well, because San Francisco moved up. And San Francisco sitting at number 12, clearly they were in a prime position to jump ahead of a team like Carolina to make sure that they were able to get a quarterback this year. But now that they're up at number 3, they're out of the mix for the Detroit Lions, and that's one less team that the Lions could potentially move back with. And now when you look at the draft order, who could the Lions, trade with? Well, you're probably not trading with Carolina because they're sitting right behind you. And I feel like it's very difficult to trade your pick with a team that believes you're going to take a quarterback. I mean, you can do it. You could do it. But I think it's difficult because you got to try to pull off the trade. But then the team's like, hey, you're willing to trade. Are you really going to take a quarterback? I don't know if I believe you. So I think it's very difficult to do that if a team is trying to trade up for a quarterback, but they're worried you might take a quarterback. It's more like you have to jump in front of that team. Who could be interested in the Lions 7 pick? Well, it's a team that might be wanting to jump in front of Carolina because they could be looking at the draft order saying, hey, there's a very legitimate shot that the first 4 picks in this year's draft go quarterback. And let's just say, doesn't really matter the order. Let's say it's Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and now Mac Jones is the consensus top quarterback available. Now, people are saying don't count Mac Jones out at number 3. I don't think he'll go number 3, but they're saying don't count him out. Regardless, there could be like one of those top quarterbacks left. And for a team like New England at 15, who brought back Cam Newton, but may want to go get a quarterback, will they be interested in trading up? I don't know, but that's pretty far. And the Lions would have to be willing to go back 15 spots. Then you have a team like Chicago. Yeah, they're at 20. First off, divisional trades don't happen that often. But secondly, it's a long way for the Lions to go back, and it's going to take a lot for Chicago to move up that high. I just think it's pretty unrealistic. I mean, hey, if you got a huge return, you could do it. And they've already said Andy Dalton's quarterback 1, even though I think if a quarterback was there, they would take one. And then you look at a team like Washington, they have Fitzpatrick, but they're at 19. They're still far back. So you'd have to be willing to move way far back. I don't know how willing, Brad Holmes, those guys are. Yes, they've had to deal with just second-round picks for many years in a row, so maybe they are willing to jump far back and just pile up picks like crazy. I'm not 100% sure there, but it seems a little bit unlikely. There are still trade back possibilities because while New England and Chicago are the obvious ones, there's teams like Denver at number 9 who can become very, very interesting when it's draft day if they wanted to go a different route from Drew Lock. I don't necessarily think they would, but they could. And I think when you look at the draft order, let's say a quarterback slips out of the top. Let's say the top 4 picks, a quarterback slips out of there. And you're looking at Fields or, whoever, maybe Lance, whatever. Cincinnati and Miami, they're probably not taking a quarterback, right? I mean, Miami kind of told us that when they moved back, and Cincinnati doesn't need one. They just got Joe Burrow. So because of that, if one quarterback slips out of the top 4, now all of a sudden teams like Denver, New England, Philadelphia could potentially surprise some people. All these teams all of a sudden started to get in a mix because it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's a quarterback there. It's a pretty good shot that Carolina's taking one at 8. So for us, we might want to jump ahead of them, and Detroit's the perfect landing spot to do that, especially Denver, because for the Lions, if they can move back with Denver and get anything in return, they're not hurting themselves whatsoever because like, oh, we weren't taking a quarterback. You're taking a quarterback. Carolina's taking a quarterback. Guess what? The same options are still available at non-quarterback positions. That's awesome for us. If 2 quarterbacks slips out, now again, that can even up the price even more because if somehow, number 2 quarterback doesn't go and number 4 quarterback doesn't go, again, that price can go up. And I think Atlanta's a sleeper option, potentially trade back from number 4 because where they're sitting, they could take a quarterback, but when you look at their needs, aside from quarterback, it's not addressing a huge need for them. So they could easily look to trade back. And if they do that, it doesn't necessarily hurt the Lions. It could push, again, their chances to move back down because the quarterback wouldn't be slipping out. However, it does just make it so that, again, it's pretty much guaranteed that whoever traded up is taking a quarterback. So, again, it could land the Lions with a non-quarterback spot, and they're still getting a non-quarterback that they really want. It would basically happen in all of this is you have a team in San Francisco who was behind you that's now in front of you. And it's pretty much a guarantee they're going to take a quarterback, right? Most of us believe that. Let's just say that. Instead of having Philadelphia in front of you. And Philadelphia didn't look like they were taking a quarterback. They could have, but it didn't look like they were going to. So now you have a team that's probably going to take a quarterback versus a team that probably wasn't going to take a quarterback that's in front of you. So it's one more spot where you could be looking at the player that you wanted, whoever that is, could fall. Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. You move on to offense line. It could be Rashawn Slater, maybe Penei Sewell if somehow that worked out. You look at defense, you have Micah Parsons. I think Owusu-Koramoah Collins would have been there regardless. But I think there's going to be a pretty good amount of options for the Detroit Lions at number 7, right? Kyle Pitts could potentially be there. I didn't think the Lions would select the quarterback at number 7. They restructured Jared Goff. They talked so highly about it. I didn't think they would. I guess in scenario, it's a less chance that you trade back because San Francisco is now in front of you, but it's not impossible, right? Still not impossible. There's still teams that definitely could. You never know when draft day hits. Also, I'd say it's a little bit less likely that the Lions would draft a quarterback because there's probably a better chance that more are off the board now. But again, it's still possible. You never know. I mean, all the options are seemingly open for the Lions, and I don't know who they necessarily like. And I would say there's a better chance that they have a larger pool of non-quarterbacks to pick from at number 7. So let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.